Hi everyone, it's Artie from Human Chapters. I'll tell you a little bit about the human chapters. Humans are living narratives with a past, present, and future. These narratives constitute of a number of chapters across the lifespan. The aim of these conversations is to highlight a chapter of the narrative and unpack its connections to other chapters. I don't care whether people are natural storytellers, but I truly do believe each person has a story that's worthy to be told. Here's an acknowledgement to country. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land which now comprises Greater Shepparton. We pay respect to their tribal elders, past and present and emerging. We celebrate the continuing culture and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. And today we're going to be talking to Saloni. Saloni is from the UK and her chapter is Stay at Home Mum. Beautiful. Go for it, Saloni.
Hi, Artie. Thanks for having me on here. You've got some really inspirational people that have come on here. So yeah, just honored to even have this chat with you. So thank you for that. I'm Saloni, originally from Kenya, Mombasa, lived there till I was ready for my A-levels and then came to the UK at the age of 16 and have been in the UK since. So I now live in London, but I started off in Oxford. So I've traveled quite a lot around the UK for different parts of my life. But yeah, now residing in London, I have two little girls. And I have a lovely husband who looks after me and lets me do whatever I want to do. So yeah, happy days. And yeah, stay-at-home mum, changed from my career to becoming a stay-at-home mum about 7 years ago when my elder one was born.
Beautiful. So Saloni, I'll backtrack a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your career, your uni life, and perhaps if you can go back to that time, what were your dreams and aspirations at that time?
So I think anyone that knew me before having children would have said probably that I was quite driven. I was always I was on placements, graduate programs. I started off on a graduate program for project management at American Express, and it was really hard to get into. I still remember the statistic because it was so hard. There was 20,000 people and 20 jobs, 20,000 people that applied and 20 jobs, and I managed to secure one. And it was a graduate program to sort of get yourself up to sort of leadership. Absolutely loved it. From then on, I lived in Brighton at that point. From then on, I went and worked for another company in Aon, a company called Aon, and I was there for I don't know how many years, I think maybe 8-9 years. And again, in change management, process improvement, project management, client facing roles. So always traveling, always quite demanding roles. And yeah, really loved it. And I always thought that I would still be in a career even after children. That's the thought of being a stay-at-home mom was never there. My mum gave up her career to have my brother and me, but because she moved to Kenya, but with me being in the UK, I never thought that was something that I would actually do. It doesn't mean I won't go back to my career once the girls are a little bit older, but for now, yeah, it's definitely the right thing that happened in our world and a right fit for us. But yeah, that was a bit of my background before.
That's amazing. So what sparked that thought, or where was the conception of it, and how
becoming a stay-at-home?
Yeah.
So I think sometimes things happen in our lives that we don't control, and it changes our perception of what we want out of life and what we want out of our day-to-day. So the roles that I was doing was client facing or change management. So I'd have to actually travel away from home sometimes 4 days a week. So after I got married, I was in Sheffield for 4 days a week. And I remember I was having to move work from one office to another and we were closing it down. So I had to be on site. and I actually got pregnant. And on one of the occasions when I went up there, this is where it gets a bit sensitive, I actually had a miscarriage while I was up in Sheffield. So it was a 4-hour train journey up there, and then obviously this happened. And that sort of started me thinking differently, because I was away from home. I had to go to hospital on my own. I had to get all that news. And then that same day, I'd done a 4-hour journey up there, a 4-hour journey back just to get back home. And then obviously took a week off, or I can't remember how long, a couple of weeks or whatever, after the situation had happened. My company was incredible. They knew how important it was for me to have a family. So they changed my role, and I became more working from home, and I became a business analyst. And even though I was client facing and I'd have odd meetings, I didn't have to travel many days a week away. So that was amazing. And they were incredible, especially when I conceived my older one, because I needed the first 3 months for me, even in both my other pregnancies, was very trying. They were very difficult, and there were times when we were worried that something might happen again. So once I had my elder one, I'd obviously gone through this whole process of anxiety and all that. She got a dairy allergy, and she had really bad reflux. So she was sleeping on me for almost 9 months before I could lie her down, because she couldn't lie flat, because she would just bring everything up and it would actually really hurt her. She was on medication. She was on special milk. And I was at the doctor's, and I'm not exaggerating, every week for the first 6 months, because we didn't know what was going on with her until the pediatrician sort of worked it out and worked with us to sort it out. So I was quite nervous about sending her into nursery, because I think a lot of children go into nursery in the UK a lot earlier. So they go in at about 1 year when they're 1 year old. I'd signed her up because I was ready to go back to work. And luckily, I was drained. I was finished. I had a phone call from my manager, and he basically said, there's a redundancy program going on at work. We can either offer you a more senior role, or you can take the voluntary redundancy. It's up to you to make your decision. So I sat down with my husband, and we had a chat, and we made the decision together that actually I need that time to recoup, and I need to keep my little one home, because I was worried that if she went to school and she was fed the wrong thing, she might have an allergic reaction, and then we would have other problems. And we were just getting on a process where we were starting to wean her off the dodgy milk and put her on nice milk. And I was also on a very strict weaning program for all different types of foods to make sure that she wasn't reacting with, wheat and egg and all that kind of stuff. So we made that decision, and I also changed the nursery that we were going to send her into to a Montessori where it was term time only. So on holidays, she would be with me, and then also I wouldn't have to worry about after school clubs, breakfast clubs. It was literally, she could go in for her set time and she could enjoy it, but all the wraparound care would be obviously with me. And my husband, in parallel, was doing insane hours. So how he coped with all of this while he was doing those hours and traveling is just something else in itself. And as a balance for our family, this was the right thing for us to do, and we did it. And I've got no regrets. I absolutely loved it. She started nursery and she thrived. We weaned her off. She's now on normal milk. She's on great food. She doesn't have any allergies. I had the help of an incredible homeopath and a cranial osteopath. So there was a lot of stuff that I was doing just to get her back, to be able to do what she needed to do. And then I remember when she was about 2.5, my husband got placement out in Singapore, and we had a chat about, actually I could go back to work now because she's fine, or we could start trying for another one, because if we don't do it soon, I'm so burnt, I'm not sure I'll do it again. And it took so long to conceive the first one, I didn't know whether the second one would take quite so long. And within the same month, I had conceived my second one. So it was pretty spectacular, pretty amazing for me, because it had been quite a roller coaster journey for me. And then that pregnancy went really well. And I think it could be because I was a stay-at-home mom. I was able to dedicate my time to myself and my older one and my pregnancy. Obviously, my husband was a great beneficiary of it. So it was, it was wonderful. And I had my second one, so I just haven't gone back. And we've always kept the girls in schools now, as opposed to nurseries, because I'm always home, so I can keep them in the half terms, in the end of terms. There's no breakfast club or holiday clubs. If they want to do a holiday club, like the older one's older now, then she can do it for fun, but I don't send them because I have to send them because I've got the pressure of work right now. So now that my younger one is now started school and she's in, that sort of thing, maybe at some point I might consider going back in, but the way I am right now, I'm loving it. So I'm not sure I'm ready yet to do it, because I love, for me, my sports is quite important. Obviously the gyms are closed right now, but that's what I used to do. So I dropped them. A lot of people say to me, what do you do all day? But I'd always find stuff to do, and I'd be working out for a couple of hours a day. Come back, I'd cook food that day for the girls and things like that. So my day would go really fast. But I think people that are working do still wonder what stay-at-home moms sometimes do.
Yeah. Before we delve into that part of the conversation, and feel free not to respond to this question or just decline it if it's uncomfortable, but I'd love to know, so when you did go through the miscarriage, what was your, of course, the technical sort of experience, but after that, what was that experience like?
So I think it's hard for, anyone that goes to miscarriage, whether it's early on or later on, it's a very difficult process. In the Asian culture, people don't talk about it. So, I did, because 1 in 4 do have miscarriages, and it is quite normal. But it doesn't make it easier. I also am the kind of person that is really bubbly and really out there, but when it's something this personal, I do internalize. So it was quite hard. The process was difficult for both me and my husband, because once I'd gone through all that, it took time for me to build up the courage or the desire to try again, because I was scared. But I've always had incredible support from my in-laws, my parents, my husband, my immediate family, my brother, my sister-in-laws. All of them have just been phenomenal. So I never really felt it. I will always remember it and I will always feel it, but I didn't let it affect me to the point where I didn't try again and I didn't want to do it again. I kind of went through the process of dealing with it, and then we went for it again. But it wasn't easy to conceive, even the second time around. So I think for me it was quite, and I think a lot of women go through it, where it's quite an emotional roller coaster these days, because a lot of people, I don't know whether it's true, but a lot of people are conceiving a little bit later. So my body had changed, and it was sort of going through that whole process. So you're going through your hormones, and then you're going through your physical body, and it's hard. But you get through it. And I think once you, like, luckily for me, I was blessed with my girls. I remember saying, if I even have one, I'll just be grateful. And even if I don't, we'll look at other options of what we do, because I always wanted to be a mom. But I think it's a mind, everyone takes different amounts of time to sort of recover and go through that process of doing stuff.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. The next point I want to touch on is, you always wanted to be a mom. Now, I've heard so many people say that from when they were kids, and those sort of maternal experiences, playing with their dolls and having this real connection. And they just knew that they wanted to be moms at some stage, and that feeling carried through, like through all the phases of life until they were adults and they were actually ready to.
Yeah.
Please explain that to me. What is it like? When I'm,
So
yeah, just very curious.
I think I've always had that playful side to me.
Yeah.
And I've on my mum's side of the family, I'm the eldest granddaughter. So I've always been around younger children. So I've always been playing with them. I've always been around them. Nothing equips you for what being a mom really is. So, you know, that playful, fun side was a reality shock for me when I had the little one with the lack of sleep and, you know, all that kind of stuff. I would not go through the baby stage again. Like, I'm totally done.
Yeah.
But now that we're past that, and we're just in tantrums and playing, I can deal with that, because that comes to me quite nicely. I am quite strict. I do get quite cross sometimes. But at the same time, if I ask the girls, you know, what do you like? What do you like about me? You know, sometimes I joke around with them and they'll say, "Mummy, it's because you're so funny." Or, you know, we have fun. Or they don't, sometimes they don't want to go to school because they're having fun at home with me. So I love that. And I love that I've had that quality time with them. So I agree with you. People say, you know, oh, I've always wanted to be a mom, but actually the reality of being a mom is very different to what you perceive when you're younger. But I'm glad I had those instincts and those feelings, because I've got no regret. I absolutely love it. Like, for me, it's fun. I you know, being at home with them has never been a chore for me. There are moments where I think women need self-care and they need their own time, and they need to have adult chats, not mums, adult chats, like chats with people outside of the mum bubble or the children bubble. And I'm lucky because my husband's always encouraged that and always let me do that. As long as you have that, for me, then the time I spend with my children is even more precious, because I have that energy and that want to be there.
Absolutely. And that was so, we've touched on it, and I wonder if there is more to touch on it, but the idea of a stay-at-home identity, right? The way you are expressing it, it sounds incredibly wholesome. And people, like you said, people wonder, what do you do all day? Apart from the day-to-day sort of idea of what life is like, could you unpack the different elements that you, of course, kids being one thing, you know, playing with them and nurturing them, spending time with them. Are there other things within that stay-at-home realm that you absolutely love and cherish?
Yeah, I think for me, the bit that I'm most grateful for is the little moments where I've been able to see things that the children have developed in. I love that, you know, I was able to see the first step, or, you know, the first words, because I didn't send them maybe into nursery as quickly. I love seeing I love seeing them when I pick them up at 3, because, or 3:30, because they're tired, but they're not exhausted. So I get words out of them, which is always a great thing. I'm grateful that I don't have to send them, you know, to breakfast club and, you know, after school club and things like that. And just the communication that I get with the girls, because we're together literally 24/7, apart from obviously when they're at school, is something that I'll always be grateful for, because I get to have that openness with them. But that's not to say that working parents don't have this too. And it's so important that I say that, because working parents are phenomenal. I aspire to be like working parents. They juggle so much. I've got so many friends that have incredible businesses or working in the corporate world, and they manage everything, and their children are phenomenal, and their relationships with the children are phenomenal. And I think that's the key thing. I think we live in a very judgmental world.
Yeah.
And sometimes we forget that things that we take for granted, or that we're lucky to be able to have the opportunity to do, others don't. But also people make those choices, and we should appreciate those choices. There's no right or wrong with parenthood. And and I've seen good and bad in both scenarios. So, you know, I just feel grateful for what I've got, if that makes sense. And being exposed to so much around me, I never stick to my little bubble. So I feel grateful for all my friends and family that are doing all sorts of different things, because I think it's important for the children to see that.
Right. And I think you've brought you've touched on such an important point. It's more a personal choice, and it's what feels right for you, right? Like, sure, we can easily judge someone for what they're doing, but are we actually then asking, is it right for that person? Like, we've made the,
Yeah.
but yeah, and with that personal choice, yeah, everyone's different. If what works for
Yeah,
people,
like
totally different.
you know, I know that we've worked so hard as women, and men, to get our career. So initially it was a shock that actually everything I've worked for, I'm now actually giving up for a little while. And change for anyone is a bit of a shock. But sometimes people don't understand the journey that you've gone to, or the conversations you're having. As long as you've got a mutual relationship with the partner that you're deciding these things with, or yourself, then people have to appreciate that there is a reason why maybe sometimes people are doing these things. And also some people don't have the choice. So my husband's hours are insane. He travels, so I can't rely on him on drop-offs and pickups for the children. And we made a decision as a couple, because he would if I wanted to go back to work, but we made a decision as a couple that actually we need a bit of balance, because we were both traveling, we were both having that sort of career, so we both needed a balance as a family, initially, especially because I was so burnt out as well. And then once we get that balance, I mean, we made sacrifices. We've stayed in our flat, we've made it simple so that I can walk to school, just things so that, I do drive, don't get me wrong, but it's just keeping everything very simple for now to make it work for us. And then when the time is right, we can then push ourselves. But, it is interesting because everyone judges. I hear comments, I've heard comments over the last 7 years directed at me. And sometimes I block it, but actually some people could get quite affected by some of the things that people have said to me, because I've had, oh, you've worked so hard, what do you do all day, what a waste of your education. So I've had someone say, oh, but if you don't work, are your children going to be driven, because then they're just going to look at you as a stay-at-home mom? Or one that a lot of people have said, which is quite funny, is, oh, you can organize all the socials because you're not working, because you're not busy during the day, so you set up everything and then we'll deal with it, we can play with it later. So I've had it all, but I have my own little barrier, and I know they mean well and they don't understand what maybe I'm doing during the day, or the reasons why I'm in what I am in, or where I've come from, so I kind of block it. But I just think, yeah, unfortunately, this is the society we live in, and also where we live. So if I was in Kenya maybe, or India, or even maybe some of the European countries, stay-at-home moms are more, you see them more. So that's more the norm. And then the working moms are looked at in a different way, which is really sad. So I don't think there's a right or wrong. And I just think it is what it is. And you've got to, as long as you put a barrier up, and you do what feels right for you as a family and as you as a person, that's the best thing you can do.
Yeah. And Saloni, with all of those comments and remarks, for me, so my sort of perception is, oh, that's a point of education, right? Sure, it's easy for someone to say that to you, but how have you responded? Or have there been times that, yeah, what have your responses been to such comments?
Well, when people ask me, what you're about the children, like, are they going to be driven, or what they're going to do, I literally say, and it is the truth, I've asked them, I've said to them, girls, I'm happy to go back to work, but you'll have to go to after school club. And both girls have said no. I'd love to have mummy at home right now. So I don't think, and they know what I've done before. And so I've explained that to people when they've said stuff like that, because that's a little bit more, for me, a bit more sensitive. Oh, what do you do all day, and you know, what do you get bored and stuff like that. That doesn't affect me, because actually I know deep down that I'm busy and I'm really happy with what I do, and I feel grateful to be able to go to the gym, or do the passions that I have, you know, whether it's charity work or going to the gym, or you know, whatever it is, admin work, helping out in the house, whatever. It doesn't affect me, because, you know, that stuff. Yeah, but if someone then brings the children, and that's when that's the only time I'll ever respond.
Yeah,
that's when I think, actually, guys, they're fine. And you know, it doesn't mean that I've never worked. It doesn't mean I won't work. So yeah, I think it's fine. And I think sometimes it's better not to say too much, because you don't want a confrontation either. People have their perceptions of what they believe is right or wrong. And you know, I remember someone saying to my husband, "Oh God, she's not working. God, that must be really irritating for you. She must call you all day. You must get so she must eat your head." And he was like, "Well, actually, I don't hear from her at all. But yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for caring." So you know, it is funny, because everyone wants to put in their 2 pence, but I think that's in everything. I think that's people judging working moms. I think that's people judging women. I think that's, you know, everything. So you just have to take it with a pinch of salt, and do what feels right for you. As long as you can work it out with yourself, or if you have a partner, with your partner, then I don't think it's an issue.
absolutely. Now, and that's so nice to hear you say that. Despite or whatever comes your way, you always look out for yourself first, you and your family. And
yeah, I think it's important, and then you can put your energy into everything, because I think at the end of the day, especially, you know, now that we've been through COVID as well, we've all been isolated with our families, and had to spend time. And I have to admit, it hasn't been that difficult for me, because I'm used to being with the girls. It's been hard because we live in a flat, so you know, the outside space is what we lack. But in terms of hanging out with the girls 24/7, was hard from the homeschooling perspective, because I then had to figure out what they were doing. But in terms of like hanging out as the four of us, like I could do it. I could easily do that again. Like I loved it. But I would love it if I had a bigger space. Like, so, I think that would make it easier.
absolutely. That was going to be my next question, was what was COVID like for you? And in particular, what was the homeschooling situation like?
The homeschooling is hard, because they've got timetables and they've got work, and then you've got to send stuff in. So that was really hard, especially for the older one. The younger one, unfortunately, initially, she's nursery age, so it's really hard for them, because they don't have that stimulation. So I used to just try and get them out in the garden. You know, we've got a communal garden, or to the park, or the woods, or whatever we could, as much as possible. But that was the hardest bit for us. We play a lot of sports, so once the tennis courts outside closed, that was it. It was really hard for us, because my husband, to give me a break, would take them for an hour to play, and they both love it, and then they'd come back. So now we just use the garden, and we actually play the tennis in the garages, and all the neighbors know us, so they're great. They're just like, okay, we won't bring our cars at this point, kind of thing. So so you know, we found ways to deal with it, but yeah, it's been hard, because I can't go back to Kenya. I haven't seen my dad. I haven't been able to get the girls out. Lockdown is really tough for any family. But I think, because I'm so used to half terms with them, holidays with them, always picking them up, always with them, it hasn't been catastrophic. I know I joke about it on my Instagram, but it hasn't been like it hasn't been that bad. So yeah, it's been okay.
No, that's
Luckily.
absolutely wonderful to hear. The other thing I wanted to ask was sort of looking forward, or actually, no, you mentioned that uh, getting a group outside of the mum's bubble and sort of having those engaging conversations or whatever it is, the connections. Tell us more about that. How does that fill your bucket as a
So one of the key things, the two key things for me that helps me, one is sport. So initially, back in the day, it would be squash, but now obviously I don't do that. So it's, you know, my yoga, my body conditioning, my my workouts, and then in lockdown it's been running, because I get that time to sort of do my own stuff. But through that, through the club, I've obviously made friends, and a lot of them don't have children. So, you know, I'll have my stimulation during the day potentially through that. My husband realized quite early on that, because we had a good chat about it, that, you know, I'm happy to be a stay-at-home mom, but I do need, and he knows I'm so social, I do need to be out. So he was amazing. He would, once or twice a week, I would just go out with friends. It could be moms, don't get me wrong, I have a lot of mom friends, or it would be just friends that I've had from Kenya or university or work, and even a lot of my male friends that I haven't seen for ages, or my cousins. And I'd go out for a couple of hours and sort of just hang out with them. And it's really nice, because it's just, I don't talk about the kids then. We obviously little bits, but it's more about, you know, what they're up to and that kind of stuff. And I love that.
No, that's brilliant. And what about, so you mentioned a tiny bit in regards to your husband and comments directed at him. Is it a frequent thing that happens, or
no? It's just random, you know, like guys chat and they start joking around, and, you know, when they're having a beer and stuff. But he's so good. He just shuts it down within one comment. He'll be like, I don't really hear from her, which is actually the truth. Like, he's so busy, there's no point ringing. So I don't even bother. Like, we'll WhatsApp. And even that, it's like, you know, where's the gas bill? Or, you know, I need to find this so I can sort out this piece of thing. So he's been home in lockdown and it's been fine. We've been great. You know, everyone needs space at points, but it's fine. He normally just shuts it down.
Beautiful.
Which is good.
And I was just thinking about the other sort of, peer pressure. And there is peer pressure at school, but even as adults, the different phases of life, there's some sort of that peer pressure. And
so there are points when I will always reach out to certain friends and say, actually, I'm thinking maybe I should go back to work, because I genuinely want to do something, and they will advise me on what kind of stuff that I should maybe consider, because I need to now think about my balance and all that kind of stuff. So over the time, you know, sometimes when people say it quite a lot, sometimes it'll play on your mind, sometimes you'll have a little look and then you'll decide either way. So there have been stopgaps where I've thought, actually, you know, I do love working as well. You know, it was something that I enjoyed and I did love. So it's not like I won't go back. But that's why when the second lockdown happened, I actually set up the Instagram page, not to work, but just to give myself another hobby, because I couldn't get to the gym. I couldn't have the social interaction that I'm used to. So this brought a new avenue for me, and it also gave me something new to learn. So I got to learn about Instagram. I've learned, you know, how to make a video, how to make, you know, using different applications to make things look better. And it, you know, it's a hobby for me, but it's great because I'm learning every day. And I think that's one of the most important things, I think, for anyone, whether you're a stay-at-home mom or not. You just want to grow all the time. And I'm grateful that actually I listened to my friends and my husband and finally did something about it, because they've been telling me to set up something for ages and I've just ignored them because I'm too scared. But I've been able to, you know, do it, connect with everyone. So it's been amazing. And it's only been since November, right? So it's only been a couple of months. It's pretty amazing.
Such a short time. Okay, the next one is, what is balance for you? you as Saloni, just one person, what is balance?
I think balance just needs to be as long as long as if you need to do things for other people and things for your family and things for things that you just genuinely need on your to-do list that you need to get done, just making sure that you have a little bit of time to have a respite for yourself. It doesn't have to be a large amount of time, but even if it's just a little bit of time a day, to take a bit of time out. It doesn't have to be meditation or something like that, just anything that you can do just for yourself, whether it's Netflix or going for a run or whatever. So I think for me as a person, that's really important. Or finding something that I can do for myself. As a family, I think balance is really important for us, because if we were both working and traveling and all of that, I think we would have struggled as a family. I wouldn't have been able to cope. I'm very organized, but I also get quite stressed. And when I do something, I like to do it properly. And if I'm stretched too thin, it's not going to happen. so yeah, I like to make sure that there's a bit of me time in that.
Absolutely. No, that's beautiful. And the second one is, what is growth for you?
Growth.
Yeah.
Growth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think as time goes on in our lives, we change.
Yeah.
So the kind of things that we wanted to grow in change. So for me now, it's as I like to think of like new hobbies, things that just stimulate my mind. And for me, physical exercise is really important. So growth in that way, not obsessively, but just maintaining how I feel, because it releases endorphins. So just maintaining that is, for me, it's growth. So learning, I learned Blaze, or I learned a new class. Next week, I'm doing some dance exercise stuff. So it's just making sure that whatever your passion is, trying to just take a little bit of time out to do a little bit on that.
Passionate kills. That's so wonderful. And now tell us a bit about your Instagram account and that journey in itself.
So
that
that was crazy. I basically was struggling a little. I think everyone was struggling in the first lockdown. Everyone was quite down. So I created a video on toast, released it on my personal account. And actually, it was so lovely because I got connected with so many people on my Facebook that I hadn't chatted to for so long. And it brought so many smiles. So a lot of my friends encouraged me to actually start putting things out more. And they were like, this stuff's actually quite a little bit funny, so other people might relate to it and enjoy it. So I finally got up the courage to set up an Instagram page, because I didn't want my children on any of my social media. So the reason I've set it up is so that it's just about mum life, but not got their pictures or their videos and stuff on there, because my personal stuff has it. And yeah, I'm really glad I did it, because I've got connected to so many incredible people. I've learned so much so quickly on how to use the application, and just networking, and yeah, it's just been really fun to do. I didn't realize I was funny, like that funny, until I started doing it. But I've used it more as an outlet. So it's, for me, I call it relatable, because it's stuff that I think of, that I think actually I'm sure others are thinking of it, and that's what I put out there. So I didn't expect it to grow more than 50 followers, and these were probably 50 people that knew they had to follow me because they were my mates. I thought I was literally dancing when I got to 50. I was like, hey guys, this will be a bit of fun for you. And as it's grown, it's just been so lovely, because people have been so supportive, so kind. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect social media to be quite so kind. So yeah, it's been really fun. I really love it. And I'm a bit scared, because a couple of days ago I asked if people wanted me to do more lives, and they've said yes. So there'll be more stuff coming on there. So yeah, it's really fun, and it's just an outlet. Yeah, it's been amazing.
That's right. No, I look I look forward to it. It always
Yeah,
gives.
we'll hopefully get you on there as well. You can come on with me.
Sure.
You'll be like, I'm busy this week.
Oh,
I'm busy next week.
busy. When else would you like me? I'm busy then too. No,
Yeah, yeah.
oh,
Be like,
no,
I can't do it. Can't do it.
I won't do that. No, I would happily do it. I'd be so scared, but yeah, it
I
would.
think it'd be amazing because it's nice that people know what you're doing because you're doing so much. So I just think it'd be really good for people to be aware of it.
Sometimes I just think I love talking too much. That's probably where
Yeah,
it's
that's my problem.
yeah. Oh my goodness. And the other thing, Saloni, I wanted to tell you, with the whole idea of stay-at-home mom and the stigma around it and all of that, the judgment around it. As I'm growing older, and this has been for the last few years, is I've just appreciated my mom that much more, right? Mom has
Yeah.
always been a stay-at-home mom. And I sort of, we graduated, and yes, there's the career, and this is what we're doing. And as, of course, with age probably comes wisdom, but the amount that they did and the amount that they probably sacrificed, and
Yeah.
yeah, I have those open conversations with her, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's
Yeah,
never
I think
been.
I think maybe I do think that also because my mom did she moved country and she gave up a lot to bring me up and my brother up, and she did work for a little while in that time, but most of it was at home with us. It wasn't an alien concept to me to become a stay-at-home mom, and because I'd had and I still am so close to my parents, and I've seen the benefits of it and how much I loved it. For both my husband and me, it's never been a sacrifice. It's always been yeah, that's what we're going to do. And if anything changes, circumstances change. I might have to go back to work, or I may want to go back to work, but sometimes we forget, or we don't, not we, but everyone's got different backgrounds. So some people have had parents that have had to work when they were younger, and then others haven't. And I think some of that foundation is what leads us to some of the decisions we make later on. It might not be, but for me, it was never a taboo. It was never something not to do because it was the most incredible thing that I'd seen. So I agree with you. I think sometimes we don't sometimes realize if we did have a mom that did, even the ones that worked and brought up children. I mean, back in the day, it's also just as hard as it is now. So it's pretty phenomenal what any of these moms have done, any mom does. So I think sometimes it's just a shame that people judge anyone in this scenario, because I genuinely feel that anyone who is a mum or even not a mum, who is progressing in their career, whoever who's made that decision not to, because there's a taboo on, oh, why don't you want to be a mum? There shouldn't be, because people make these decisions based on their circumstances, their backgrounds. They might have tried to be a mum. It might be a sensitive subject. They might not want to be a mum. And I think the key thing that I've learned is, especially over the last 7 years, and maybe it's my age, and maybe it's becoming a mom, it's just a shame for me that people aren't more understanding and welcoming. And I'm hoping now that we've gone through COVID and people have seen such tough times, that I'm hoping that people are more accepting of people's decisions, whatever they are, because for them it's the right thing. And we shouldn't judge it. And I think all the society sometimes do, unfortunately. And it's a shame because it people don't talk about it, but it can affect you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reality is we never know what's going on behind closed doors or what has happened.
Yeah.
That's led to just being a little bit kinder.
Yeah, just being a bit more sensitive, because people, but I get really irate when people say, oh, but she's just got a dog, or she's just got a cat, like, and it's stuff like, okay, but to them that's actually their baby, and they love it and they've made that decision. We don't know what they're thinking, what their circumstances are. So who are you or me or anyone to judge anyone's situation? They might not want children, and there's a reason for that, and they don't need to explain that to you. So I think yeah, I just hope there's in time, especially now, there's more kindness and sensitivity around anything, in terms of decisions.
That's right. And before I sort of ask the final questions, has there been anything that you've wanted to say that I haven't actually touched on, completely skipped over?
No, I think if anyone wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, a lot of people used to say to me, oh, I can't wait to get back to work because I get a bit of a break. It is tough when they're 1 years old, because they're still so dependent on you. But what I would say is, if anyone did want to be a stay-at-home mom, then as long as they're comfortable with their decision, their husband's decision, or their partner's decision, they find outlets for themselves, to give themselves that time to do what they need for themselves, self-care. Yeah, I would highly recommend it. It's great. It's amazing.
No, that's
and if they don't, that's totally cool too.
Yeah.
Just do what feels right for yourselves.
That's right. And now that you've experienced motherhood for a few years, what is your romanticized stroke realistic view of sort of future motherhood and what you see that journey as?
So the girl's getting bigger. Yeah. So I'm hoping at some point I can go back to work, if the right role comes up, which allows me the balance of being a mum and working. It's very important for me now, to make sure that balance is there. If I get that, I'll definitely go back to work because I do love it. And that's not because society thinks I should or I shouldn't. It's more for my own brain and my own stimulation. But at the same time, I'm in no rush. So when and if it comes, it comes. But yeah, I just love it if at some point we can get a bigger home so we can have a bit more space and yeah, and just go from there. But yeah, I've got no conception of what it looks like because so far it's great. So if it keeps going this way, I'm fine.
I love it. No, that's really good. And it's, yeah, again, it's so important you've said that, like you're here and now as opposed to far away in the future, where, yeah, I think a lot of people, including myself, sort of go, oh, what's happening there, sort of thing. But
yeah, I read The Secret, or things where if you visualize something, it will happen. And I agree with, I do believe in stuff like that as well. But with a career, I could say, oh yeah, in 5 years I could see myself being whatever. And it's hilarious because I didn't do that in the end. And it's a typical, like, it's such an interview thing, right? So in 5 years I'm going to be like CEO, I'm going to be sitting in your chair. But with this, it's circumstances change, things can change, we just don't know. And as long as everyone's happy, everyone's healthy, and everything's in some kind of equilibrium, yes, I'm content.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. And final, you've said the main key takeaway, which is if you want to be a stay-at-home mum, given all of those choices with partners and personal choice, go ahead and do it. But any other key takeaways you'd like to share with our audience?
I think the only thing I would say is don't get yourself wrapped up in the opinions of anyone, yourself and others, because then that way you do follow what you genuinely want. Don't let it affect you, because whichever route you go, there will be an opinion. There always is. And you don't want it to skew what your vision and your role in that specific scenario is, because I think people do that. If too many people keep saying it, as long as you're comfortable, then go for it. Whatever. And sometimes people don't get to choose. So, whatever happens. But own it, enjoy it, whichever route it is.
Absolutely. No, Saloni, thank you so very much for taking the time to have this very important conversation about your chapter. It was beautiful. And for someone that doesn't have kids, it's really nice listening to what it is like being a mum. And
no, absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. I hope it I hope it was okay.
absolutely. No, and this is the beauty of conversations. It's authentic. There is no editing, and it goes straight on the platform. So, no, thank you, everyone that's going to listen to this. Please share it with your friends, family, whoever resonates with it. Spread the word. And it's lovely to be listening to conversations, people's stories, people's chapters. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.